win game 1 of the doubleheader. Obviously, probably not the effort you wanted in game 2, but you clinch up the #2 seed in the conference tournament. I'm sure that's certainly a pleasant thing for you guys.
Definitely. I think if before the day started we were offered a split today, we would have took it knowing we needed one win to clinch up the 2 seed. So at the end of the day, we can't be mad at how we played. And you know, we really hard-fought victory in that first one, and you know, typical to our style all year. You know, basically coming back 4 different times and never giving in. And you know, going extra innings like that, it took a lot of emotion out of us. And then you know, to have somebody like Davenport pitch in the second game wasn't fair, but he was really good.
And in that first game coming back, T.J. Thomas comes up in the 8th inning, gets the single to tie the game up. Then in the 9th inning, walks and comes through in the 11th inning with the sac fly. Someone who's struggling, what does that do for his confidence?
It was great. You know, TJ's been a great teammate, and you know, I don't think he got any ABs at Towson last weekend. He sat the 3 games because he had been struggling, and you know, him and I had talked at the beginning of the week, and this being the last weekend and him being a big part of what we've done all year, you know, I told him I wanted to try to get him 3 games this weekend to see if he could get it going. And then, you know, he had 3 rough first at bats, and he said something, are we going to stay with me? And I said, listen, we got to see if you can do it. And then he got the big hit, and then a big walk, you know, which was tough for him to lay off pitches, especially with the bases loaded, and then, you know, the sacrifice fly. So he's a guy who's been there, and you know, he's been a big part of, you know, this team all year, and I'm glad to see him come through.
What did you see wrong with Tiedemann today? Do you think it was more mechanical, or just the fact that really after that emotional win, coming in, pitching on a Friday, what he wasn't used to, and really the game on paper meaningless for you guys?
Right. You know, I almost brought Tiedemann into the first game. I mean, we were really going to sell out to try to win that game, and you know, I think after winning it, like you said, the emotion, the adrenaline, and just a big relief on all of us. He told me from the first inning he didn't feel right. He felt off with his mechanics. He just never felt it. He wasn't hurt or anything, but you know, it definitely had me really worried. And when I went out and visited, you know, he said he could definitely finish the inning, but I said let's just call it a day. And no, he's a big part of our success, so we can't get him injured. And you know, I think he went down to the bullpen. He figured some things out. He'll throw another bullpen on Monday and be ready to go for the tournament.
Are there concerns with Jesh?
Definitely concerns with Jesh. The good thing about today was his velocity was back up, but I visited the mound there in the 5th inning. I said, hey, why don't you tell him what's coming? Couldn't have hit it too much harder. He started laughing, and you know, I don't know. He's just missing up right now. He's working behind. You know, he just needs to get a little bit better. He's had a rough 4 straight outings now, and you know, at some point I envision him throwing in the CAA tournament, so we're going to need him to be good.
In the first game out of the bullpen, a lot of guys that usually are your go-to guys out of the bullpen came in, kind of really shut the door after Joe's performance. What do you think of Joe in game 1, and also those guys out of the bullpen, Cody, Andrew Barbarino, and the job they did? You
know, we were talking in the dugout, and I thought, you know, William Mary, I mean, they really swung the bats well. I mean, you guys can see what their pitching did on stats, and you know, we were really impressed with them today, really impressed. And I was real happy with our, you know, I thought Berg had great stuff, as good as stuff as he's had in a long time, and they hit him and put up some runs. And you know, when we were able to strike with the 3-run homer to tie it up, Cody, you know, kept us there, and then we went right to Stribes and Barbs. I mean, those are our guns right there. So we, like I said, we were warming up Tiedemann, thinking about going to him. So we went to every guy we had to win that first game.
When you look at a start tomorrow with Kozlowski, is that more of him getting the opportunity to rest some guys, or is this maybe possibly an audition for him to pitch down in Harrisonburg at one point?
I think it's an audition. You know, I think, you know, right now, if he throws tomorrow, you can't argue that he would be our Game 3 starter. And right now, if we win Games 1 and 2, Game 3 would be with the chance to send us to a regional. So, you know, Nick Kozlowski's come from a long way, but, you know, he's pitched just really good all year. He had a great outing against Rutgers and a really good outing against Albany, and we're real impressed with him. He's got a lot of confidence, and he didn't get to throw last weekend because of Towson, because he pitched against Albany, but you know, we're all real excited to see him throw tomorrow.
Between today's game and coming up tomorrow, any decisions that have been made or kind of left been made, or what you're going to look at from terms of lineup next week, or pitching rotation or anything like that? Still a lot to be talked about.
You know, the lineup, it'll definitely go on matchup. You know, who we face. We've seen every conference guy now. You know, we noticed today that Chris Bell threw Game 1 for Delaware, so you know, if they're the 3 seed, that probably means Young would throw Game 2. You know, we're starting to look at some of those things and see, but you know, now playing on Thursday first, we'll get to see the Wednesday matchups, and we'll have a pretty good idea of who we'll see on that Thursday game, at least pitching wise, and that'll definitely do our lineup. And then what I told the kids is Teeds will go game one, and from there on out, it'll be all matchups. If Berg has to throw in the first one, we're going to throw him in the first one. We're going to try to win one at a time and just take it from there.
Thanks, Coach. Congrats,
Thank you,
Coach.
guys. Thank you.